Well, Barack Obama last week announced a policy change on not deporting undocumented young immigrants. Was that a political stunt, do you think, or something more genuine?
It certainly was a policy change that had significant political ramifications. As to what the motive was to move the policy, who can say? I will say that advocacy organizations and leaders of the dreamer community, the young people who are affected, had been very direct with the administration and had been pushing for some months, and also had been really kind of getting more confrontational. There was a moment a couple of weeks ago where there were some protests at one of the president's campaign events. So I think the sort of looming confrontation, as well as the possible political benefits from moving, had the effect of moving the president on this.
Well, I know you've been very interested in seeing how this has gone down. You were involved in some of this. What has the reaction been like?
So my involvement is, I'm a pollster. I do a lot of public opinion work, and I've worked for several of the advocacy organizations that have been pushing the administration. This is a political winner for the president, and it was clear that it would be for some time. Latino voters in the United States have been pretty disappointed with the administration because they were promised comprehensive immigration reform, and they didn't get it during the first 2 years of the administration, and everything's been on hold since the Republicans took control of the House of Representatives. So there was a lot of disappointment with the president, but he needs strong Latino participation. It's not that Latinos were going to go vote Republican, but they might have sat on their hands, and that would have been really difficult for the Obama re-election campaign. And what connects Latino voters to the issue of immigration is the fact that these are people separated only by the smallest degree of separation. About 90% of all Latino citizens in the United States are either themselves an immigrant, or the children of immigrants, or the grandchildren of immigrants. So when you speak badly about immigrants, you're talking about someone who's a member of my immediate family. And our polling found last summer that 53% of Latino voters know someone who is undocumented. So it's a very personal issue for Latino citizens.
Well, where does that leave Mitt Romney? He's got to walk a pretty careful path here, doesn't he? Because he needs to appeal to his conservative base, but he also doesn't want to put off immigrants either, does he?
He's in a bit of a fix. He moved very far to the right during the Republican primary process in order to capture that core constituency on the GOP that's very anti-immigrant. He moved to the right on many issues, in fact. As he has been sort of pivoting towards the general election, the assumption was that he would try to moderate his positions, and he showed some evidence that he was trying to do that. There were a number of big press events about Latino outreach. But I think this puts him in a very difficult position. He was already in the worst position of any Republican nominee in the last, 20 years with respect to Latino voters, and now he's even worse off because his one lifeline, the support of Senator Rubio and Senator Rubio's efforts to offer a softer image on immigration for the Republicans, has now been boxed out strategically by the president's action.
Well, Obama pretty much trumped Rubio, didn't he, with this one?
He did. One of the issues has been that Senator Rubio would never write his plan down. So no one quite knew what this Dream Act Light was going to be. They just knew it was going to have some sort of temporary alleviation of deportation and an opportunity to work or go to school. And essentially that is what the president just enacted into executive policy. And so there's no more policy space for a Rubio proposal. He's kind of out of the game, as it were.
Well, there's been a lot of talk lately about the Florida Senator Marco Rubio. Will he or won't he be in the running for the VP position? Well, Mitt Romney's come out and said that he is indeed being thoroughly vetted for that position. Why do you think Romney has given away what's usually such a closely guarded secret?
So Romney's announcement, as you know, came on the heels of the revelation in a major newspaper that he was in fact not being vetted, that he was not one of the candidates that Romney was most closely looking at. And I think that this was an attempt on the part of Romney to do damage control. The idea that the week after the president's masterstroke on boosting his support among Latinos and dealing with the immigration issue, that the following week it would become clear that the only viable Latino candidate for the vice presidency was not even being considered, that was yet another negative. And so this was damage control on the part of the Romney campaign. I don't for a moment believe that Senator Rubio will be the vice presidential nominee. I haven't for some time. I could be proven wrong, but I just don't see it happening.
Well, does he appeal to Latinos?
No, and I think that's a pretty clear result from the polling that we've done at Latino Decisions and the polling that others have done. Rubio may help Romney slightly in Florida, and that is not uncommon to have a favorite son on the ballot. But our polling makes it clear that he has very little positive effect among the predominantly Mexican-American populations and Puerto Rican populations in other parts of the country. And so if winning Florida was Romney's goal, then there might be an argument for putting Rubio on the ticket. But if that's going to be the logic, then there are other states that Governor Romney is really in a must-win situation and where he's further behind than he is in Florida, specifically Ohio, and Senator Portman would be an obvious selection there. So I think that Senator Rubio's appeal is less than meets the eye, and circumstances have really kind of overtaken what could have been whatever advantage he would bring to the ticket.
Well, last election, Obama managed to garner 67%, I think it was, of the Latino vote. How's he likely to do this time? Can he boost that?
So 67% was the estimate in the exit polls. Our numbers actually suggest it was probably slightly higher. That has to do with the way the exit polls are conducted. Will he match that number? I think the answer to that is now yes. It was not clear to me that it was yes prior to last week's actions. There was certainly some soft support, some lack of enthusiasm on the part of Latino voters. I hear from other people in your profession and the press that the Obama camp is now talking about trying to break 70. And I should tell you, if they can do that, they will win the election handily. If you win that level of Latino support, you will win in Florida, you will win in New Mexico and Colorado and Nevada, and then the path to election for the GOP is very, very difficult.
Well, there is a lot of talk about the influence of the Latino vote, but statistically, let's look back at the last election. Latinos were only 9% of eligible voters. And if we're looking at swing states this time around, we're just talking fractions of fractions, aren't we?
That's correct, but in a very close election, of course, a fraction is what makes the difference. And so in 2008, even at only 9%, the Latino margin of victory was larger than the statewide margin of victory in Nevada, Colorado, New Mexico, Indiana, North Carolina. It's likely to be the same in this election and in Florida. So even if you're a small share of the population, if you're giving a huge majority to one side, then you have the opportunity to affect the outcome of an election.
Well, this week, at the end of this week, I believe both that President Obama and Mitt Romney will be strongly courting the Latino vote. Tell us what's happening.
So each year there is a convention of the National Association of Latino Elected and Appointed Officials. That convention begins on Thursday of this week. Both the President and Governor Romney are scheduled to speak. What's very interesting about that is that Governor Romney has refused to take a position on what he would do with respect to the President's actions last Friday. Would he allow that policy to go forward, or would he reverse it? He's dodged the question in several national television appearances, but there he's going to be in front of a room full of very powerful Latino elected officials, and it'll be very interesting to see what he has to say.
Indeed. Thank you so much to Gary Segura for joining us.
It was my pleasure.